Okay, again, my name's Emily Jaminet. I'm very excited to be here tonight. I know a number of people are on vacation. AJ's wife is on vacation and a couple others. So I am going to record this class as well that they can watch, they can understand. Again, this is something that we wait all year to launch at the parish. It means that much to us that the church continues to grow, that we can walk with you, that we can help you get your answers to the many questions of life, and know that this is a journey. This is not a sprint. This is not even, you're not signing on a dotted line. We're in a period called inquiry, where you're inquiring and you're learning, and that period will go all the way until after in like mid-January, when we decide to make a decision to take the next step, which would be to fulfill one of the rites. But right now we're having meaningful, purposeful conversations about the faith. And when we begin this class too, we're also going to start in the very beginning. So for people that are like, well, I know so much about the Bible and I know so much about Jesus and I know so much about the Holy Spirit and I know a lot of this. It might be a refresher, but it will be view it as an opportunity to hear or experience things from a Catholic perspective. Because that's really important. Certain aspects of the faith might initially be, I know the story of Adam and Eve, for example, but that's extra important for us as Catholics. And I want you to know why a lot of this has an importance, such as with the Old Testament. Tonight it's feeling very formal. And so we're going to do a lot of introductions of our team. We're going to tell you a little bit about our life and our journey. And we want this to be relational. And I would hope that you continue to feel comfortable with just being here and being able to get to know each other and tell our stories and tell us where we're at and how did we get here and why is this important? Because that exchange is really important. I don't want it to be viewed as just a class that I show up and I sign in and then I'm done and I'm going to Catholic class. This is about, this is all leading up to making a decision to then fully practice your faith. And that to me is the most important thing. Not that you have perfect attendance and you never go into church again. This is really, really important to all of us as team members. This is my third year in this role of helping out, which used to be called RCIA. Now it's called OCIA. And this is important because this is part of our church brownie. And to me, each year we've done it a little differently. This year we're doing it in this room, the multi-purpose room, which is actually a little bit more formal, but I think it's going to be great because we're going to be able to use the screen to hopefully every week I want to have a different graphic or image or artwork that just is inspiring. That's one of the goals. We will have some short clips that we can even talk about and understand. We're going to have sharings. We're going to have teachings. And what I love about this program is that the teachings are not just coming from I think and I feel. They're coming from our priests and our deacons that are focusing on formation. So sometimes it might be like, wow, this feels like a class aspect, but we want you to understand why Catholics do what they do. So it will have this teaching component where you can take notes, you can ask questions. We'll always be able to point you to more resources to learn more. So we'll have a whole class on the Eucharist. Well, there's a lot more to the Eucharist than just the Eucharist. We want you to really be able to understand why Catholics believe that they are, the context of the Mass. So, for example, this book is going to be your weekly treasure. Please bring it. It's going to really help you. And it has pamphlets that we've assembled within the book that will help you go through it, that will help you understand. So maybe, for example, I don't hit every aspect of that pamphlet of what we're talking about. You can go into the class reading it, which I kind of recommend. Oh, let me read up on the Eucharist so I can ask questions, for example, if we're talking about that. Everybody also has a overview, a schedule of all the dates on the inside of the book. So this is an example right here of what we're going to cover and even where we're going to cover it. So this is just our kickoff. This is our introductory. This is an opportunity to be here. And next week, we're going to actually tour the church. Monsignor is going to be assisting us with as well on that week. And we're going to look at all the aspects of our church. So we're going to understand everything from the different names of the parts of the church, because this, we want you to see it as a home. We don't want you to feel intimidated. We want you to feel very comfortable in the church itself. So even though it's week 2, we will be there. We're also going to spend some time in prayer during our courses. We might end a few minutes early and go in and have some time of quiet prayer. We'll have times of prayer where we're praying, for example, learning to pray the rosary, learning to pray, the Stations of the Cross, or how to genuflect. What does it look like to walk into our church? And what are the appropriate interactions so that you feel comfortable? I know last year it was kind of exciting. People were like, I really can do the sign of the cross. It's like, yes, you're welcome to do the sign of the cross. And this is what that means. So we what I love to tell people is the Catholic Church is not a secret society that keeps secrets. We actually want that creed, when we recite the creed, to come alive, and everything has meaning behind it. That you feel like, I really do understand to the best of my ability at this time, and I can make this commitment and continue a life of faith. So while we're not going to answer, there's so many encyclicals and letters and resources. We want to make you lifetime learners, which is very important, but we also know that we have a lot to cover, so that you don't get to Easter and be like, but I don't know who Mary is. Why is Mary an important mother of God? Or, what is original sin? We want to really cover all of that. So I have a couple of things in my pretty background. Maybe this isn't a very good idea, but it felt like a good idea when I did it. So let's shut up. The next thing I wanted to do was just do some general introductions before we go over some of the major details. Again, my name is Emily. Call me Emily. Emily Jaminet. I have 7 children, and that are ages 8 to 25. So I'm still in a very busy season of life. This is the high point of my week. I absolutely love this night. My husband knows he needs to come home early. He needs to get the kids to the sporting events. They're still very active. And he knows that I'll be walking in with a big smile on my face around 9 p.m. And so he knows homework needs to be done. We have 2 children at the school. So I have a 3rd grader, Elizabeth. And I have an 8th grader, Mary, who will be going to Bishop Watterson next year. I have a junior who's at Bishop Watterson. I have a sophomore at Franciscan University of Steubenville. I have a senior at University of Cincinnati. My oldest got married in May, and my second oldest lives in town and is getting married in November. So I have a lot going on. I recognize that, I understand, but my heart is so happy because I have a relationship with Jesus, and Jesus allows me to be able to serve, and he allows me to be able to have the peace in the midst of an unbelievably busy schedule. John and I have been married 26 years, and he works out at Honda, so we're constantly kind of commuting and doing things. Our kids are busy with sports and activities. Hello, welcome. And it's a beautiful life. But most importantly, my activities at the parish involve OCIA, so Adult Faith Formation, and also so Adult Faith Formation, becoming Catholic, assisting with that. I also assist with baptism class. Some of you have met there as well. And baptism class are for the infant baptized, the infant babies. So we do that on Sunday morning. And I'm also involved in ministry work outside of the parish, where I do retreats and conferences and write Catholic books. So that's a really fun way of giving back. And when I do that, what I found was, it's one thing to come to a parish and do an event and say, I get to come here and come to Louisiana and lead a women's retreat, and that's really great. I do a parish event. But what I found is it's really beautiful to be here in my parish, get to know you, seeing the people coming and going each week, and to build up our local community. Because I think our local community is essential for the seeds. You know, when I come as a speaker or presenter, I'm planting seeds and I'm like wishing those seeds really good luck. Like, all right, go team, you know, but when we're here, I see the importance of each and every week of just for you guys. I don't want you to think about giving back and all the things going on in the parish. When you think about, I just want to come to this class and learn about my faith and sponsors. This is a big ask, and we'll go over the details of the ask, but you just show up, you just be a witness, you just answer a question, you just be a friendly face. Because imagine if, you know, this room is consistent of one person sitting here, right? That would be so intimidating. We want a vibrant, full room where people are able to talk, people are able to share ideas, and it's also a bit of a safe space where, you know, you might share something about your childhood, growing up in a different religion. That's not something that, you know, this is an opportunity to have that exchange here, and to know that that was a beautiful conversation you had at OCIA. And this is where community takes place. So I don't want to get too heavy into the theology and the overview, but I think it's important that we set the right tone. So that's my goal with the tone, is that you know, we have some hospitality, we have some time to mingle, some time to talk, and at the same time, I know when 8:30 hits, many of you are out the door and off to pick up kids, or off to bed because you're getting up early for work. So that's a little bit about me. I think I'm going to introduce Chris next. Chris, come on up. Chris is my wonderful, wonderful co-host of all this.
Well, I am nothing compared to Emily. I only have 2 children, but I have 4 grandchildren. That's a blessing in itself. My husband and I have been married 50 years. He was born and raised Catholic. He's been coming to St. Andrew for, I don't know, years. I'm a convert, and it's the best thing I ever did in my life. And my husband says, well, you married me, and I said, yeah, I know, but Catholicism is the basic part of it, because he brought his faith to me, and we lovingly would do double headers. We would go to my church at one time, have a Sunday, and then come here. And so I was exposed to his faith as well. We lived in Columbus almost all my life. And my husband's from the East, and yeah, he loves Columbus, where we raised my husband and I directed our CIA for 20 years, right after I converted. We retired, and then Emily came on board and said, Chris, do you want to help me? And we said, oh, here I am. And it's been great. And every single year, you learn something new. It doesn't matter if you're cradle Catholic or not. You hear something differently. I was director of the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd program for a while here at St. Andrew, and I would tell the children, they'd say, well, you know, Mrs. P, we've already heard the Good Shepherd parable. I said, but that was last year. You're older than, and you're smarter, and you're going to hear something new in this. So the same thing happens here to me, and it also will happen to you as you go to church and you hear readings year after year, and you go, oh, I remember that one. Oh gosh, I didn't remember. You know, something new will speak to you. So anyway, so I I taught the Good Shepherd program here, and then I opened the preschool down the street, and I was there for 10 years, and then I retired. And it's been wonderful. I've spent a lot of time with my grandchildren, and been able to renew some hobbies that I knew I had wanted to do and just never had the opportunity. But this is a very favorite thing for me to do, and I'm anxious to get to know all of it. Thank you.
What is that hobby? You must tell them.
Well, when I was in junior high, I was taking horseback riding lessons, and I wanted a horse. And my father said, well, if you make the honor roll all year, I'll buy you a horse. So I did. And we went horse shopping, and it was great fun. But I realized after we got home that I couldn't drive. And the barn where I was going to be having the horse was like up by the zoo. And how was I going to actually spend time with the horse, except when my mom was home from work, which was when I was doing homework, or maybe on the weekend. That's not really what I wanted. So I told him, no, I changed my mind. He said, wow. And so anyway, in retirement, my wonderful husband sent me to a dude ranch, Colorado. Well, it was a Christmas present, but our daughter and daughter-in-law came. It was great. All girls. So I'm sitting in the airport in Denver, and I said to myself, this is my time. I have loved being with a horse every day for 5 days. And somehow in my life, I am going to be with horses every week of my life until I can't be anymore. So I get home and I tell my husband that, and he goes, oh yeah, how are you going to do that? We live in a condo. Don't have a horse. So, the Holy Spirit works. A friend of mine, former preschool mom, who I'm getting close with, told me about this farm in Marengo, and went up there, and now it's going on, probably 4 years. And I had been leasing one of their horses. And sadly, last April. So, but I'm working on another one. We'll see. Anyway, so that's my big.
So she starts talking about Jack. It's a horse, and she talks about Dee, it's her husband. And if she talks about boarding someone else, we know it's another horse. So we just gotta clarify.
And so I hope in your life, if there's something when the time is right for you, I hope you grasp it, because if I had known, I would be so. This has been the light of my life, other than my grandchildren. Anyway, there you go.
Beautiful. I love that story. I thought that was the best. I was thinking today, I know we haven't officially started prayer yet, and Jim months here, but I didn't know if you knew that today is the feast was called the Guardian Angels. So I was able to go on Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. All the school children go to mass. And it's really beautiful because the entire church is full on an 8:30 a.m. mass. And today is a day that we recall the gift of our angels. So one of the things about being Catholic is we all throughout the year are peppered these beautiful feast days and days to recall the guardian angels, like I mentioned, or the archangels were last week, or thanking for Marian feast days or saints that passed away. And so part of this is this beautiful rhythm and understanding. So I wanted to begin before I introduce the deacon and father. I wanted to begin with this angel prayer, because this is a prayer, and I love to think about OCIA. Like, I want you to think about yourself as like a second grader, like going back to as a child, what would it felt like if I heard this prayer for the first time? Or someone told me that I had an angel that was always with me. And in the scriptures today, it talked about how the angel, you always have an angel looking at the face of God, that is loving you and guiding you and helping you. So I'm going to offer this little prayer, which I meant to offer at the beginning and I didn't. But I think your angels have brought you here today. I think that you do have a special guardian angel that has led you and helped you. And I think it's beautiful that we get to be here together on this day. So if you don't know the prayer, don't worry. anyone that does can recite it with me, so I'm not alone. But I want you to hear just the beautifulness of the way the church really teaches children to pray, and us all Catholics. So we begin in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God love commits me here. Ever this day be at my side, to light, to guard, to rule and guide. Amen. Amen. So that's a great example of a simple little prayer that we're going to learn throughout the year, asking our angel to be at our side, to light us, to guard, to protect us, to guide us. And just how beautiful, I think, that we honor the guardian angels, which were earlier this week on Sunday, or no, the guardian angels today, the archangels on Sunday, in a time where I was able to do an interview this past week on the season of Halloween. I don't know if you know this, but it's an $11.6 billion industry that they said 47% of consumers purchase their front yard graveyards even before October. And I love to think that, you know, right now there's a lot of spiritual hype, you could say, but we don't always tell the rest of the story, right? Because when you drive down the road, you're like, oh, that's scary, that's scary. And we have little kids in the car. I promise you, they notice every scary thing. Like, Mom, what's going on there? Mom, what's going on there? But what I love to think is that as Catholics, the truth is that there is a whole nother side to this spiritual conversation that we're having. And I love that the angels, this special day, for example, is that we're not called to be people that are scared or intimidated or lost or confused or focusing on what's wrong with the world, focusing on the horror of the world, but rather we get to be children of light. We're children of God. So to me, it's been just like a personal dialogue in my own family, and then being able to do some presenting on this. I think it's an important time as we begin OCIA, right as we kick into the month of October. So let's see here. Monsignor, would you like to go first, please? Deacon, you're my closer of the night. Just sharing a few words. You know, the problem is all the Bibles. I do have I have a Bible here.
Oh,
Yes. Oh,
I just would like to use it.
perfect. I have some catechisms and Bibles.
I just would like to use it. And I left in a hurry and I didn't bring
I will always have a Bible.
mine. So let me find something here that I refer to. Just so. Okay, well, I'm very happy to be here tonight and to see all of you here. My name is Father Stephen Maloney. I am the pastor of St. Andrew's, St. Andrew Parish. I've been here for a little over 11 years, and been through many of these. As Emily keeps reminding us, we call it the OCIA now, not the RCIA. We've been through many of these classes throughout the years, and it's a wonderful thing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what's so wonderful about. But each group is unique, and as the year goes along, you're going to form friendships and bonds here as you go through this process together. Each one of you is individual in their own place in your spiritual journey, but you know, you come together as a real community in the course of the year. I should tell you just a little bit about myself. I'm lifelong Catholic. You know, very Catholic family. I'm originally from Ada, Ohio, a little town about 70 miles northwest of here. My home parish was little parish, Our Lady of Lourdes Parish in Ada. And I've been a priest for 42 years now. And been around a while, but of course I'm a cradle Catholic. But I can tell you, even as such, and even having had I attended the public schools at Ada and then went to seminary. Even having had seminary training, I still am growing and learning my faith and growing in knowledge of Jesus Christ. And I want you to know that each one of you is on your own spiritual journey as well. And something has led you here tonight, and something or someone, but ultimately it's Christ who's calling you. Christ wants to know you and wants you to know him. And that's what this process is all about. Many of you already know Christ and believe in him, but he's calling you to know him more deeply and more authentically. And so that brings me to the scripture that I wanted to share with you. And it's from the first chapter of the Gospel of John. And let me just read the passage and then I'll comment on it. The next day, John was there again, that's John the Baptist, with two of his disciples. And as he watched Jesus walk by, he said, "Behold, the Lamb of God." The two disciples heard what he said and followed Jesus. Jesus turned and saw them following him and said to them, "What are you looking for?" They said to him, "Rabbi," which translated means teacher, "where are you staying?" He said to them, "Come and see." So they went and saw where he was staying, and they stayed with him that day. It was about 4 p.m. Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, was one of the two who heard John and followed Jesus. He first found his own brother Simon and told him, "We have found the Messiah," which is translated anointed. Then he brought him to Jesus. Jesus looked at him and said, "You are Simon, son of John. You will be called Cephas," which is translated Peter. The thing I wanted to point out about that passage is those two disciples saw Jesus. John pointed him out, said, "There's the Lamb of God." And they were curious. They wanted to find out more. And when Jesus saw them following him, he says, "What are you looking for?" And I think that's a question that each of us should ask. What are you looking for? Realize that Christ is asking that question. What are you looking for? And, it's a little bit later, Andrew, our patron saint here at St. Andrew's Church, Andrew says to his brother Simon, "We have found the Messiah. We found what we're looking for." And you notice also that they asked, that when Jesus asked them, "What are you looking for?" they answered I think it's kind of a funny answer. They say, "Well, where are you staying?" It's like, "Gee, we'd love to see your apartment," and Jesus says, "Well, come and see." They spend the rest of the day with him. They're getting to know him. And that's what you'll be doing too. It's not just that you're going to learn stuff. You're not going to just be learning, the catechism of the church and, you know, the hows and whys of the Catholic faith. You will be learning that. But ultimately, it is getting to know Jesus. And he's the one who's calling you. He's the one who wants to have that deeper relationship with you. And, you know, I think the idea that those disciples said, you know, where are you staying? I think it's, you know, Jesus invites him in, you know, invites him into his private space, if you will. That's kind of a sign of intimacy, you know, that he's revealing himself to them. So keep that in mind as you go through this process this year, that it is a very, Emily used the word relational, you know, we want you to know each one of us, and you know, we want to know you, but that's just a shadow of Christ wanting to know you and open himself up to you, and you in turn open yourself up to him. So anyway, that's my introduction, and I don't know if anybody wants to ask me anything, but well, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why did we call you one senior and not just one? That's usually the first question we get.
Okay, well, as I like to tell people, I answer to all of those, and you can call me anything you like as long as it's nice. But the answer you question, Monsignor is an honorary title. It's, you know, it's you know, it's not. I'm still an ordinary priest, and you know, it's a title bestowed by the Pope, and I kind of compare it to, you know, when the Queen makes somebody a knight, you know, and they're called Sir somebody or other, you know. It's an honorary title, so yeah. But so anything else?
Do you ever dress in just jeans and a sweatshirt?
Do what now?
Do you ever dress in just jeans and a sweatshirt, or is it always?
Yes, frequently. In fact, I'm wearing jeans right now. They're black. Yeah, I prefer that, you know, and usually, you know, when at some point in the afternoon, I usually, as I used to say, I change into my play clothes. Yeah.
My wife wanted me to ask, and she'll be able to watch this later. We had discovered that you had a dog, and she said, "Are we still have dogs today?"
I'd be in big trouble if I wasn't, I guess. Yes, my dog is, her name's Mabel. She is a miniature dachshund. She's going on 16 years old, and she needs a lot of care these days, but she's still plugging along. And we just recently acquired a kitten. We found a stray kitten. I say we because Mabel's the one who had to stop while I was, you know, driving back here from Ada one Saturday morning, and Mabel had to stop, and so I just pulled off the road and let her out, and we found this little kitten that was I think abandoned there, and so now Mabel has company. So anything else?
And you can get your dog blessed next Sunday, right?
This coming Sunday, October 6th, 3 o'clock. Yeah, and we'll be on the lawn in front of the rectory. we usually have a nice turnout, you know, 20 or 30 dogs and cats, so,
We can get our dogs exercise.
yeah. Okay. All right, I'll turn it back over to Emily.
Again, go ahead.
Do you need the Bible?
No, I'm just gonna talk with you. Good evening. It's been sitting so quietly and still, I want to make sure you weren't awake. First, I'll introduce myself. My name is Deacon Daniel Ballard. I'm one of the 2 permanent deacons assigned to St. Andrew, along with Deacon Tom Berg. You'll get to meet us more because we teach some of the classes along with Monsignor. Now, I want to start with the story. 2012, I was Grand Knight of our Knights of Columbus Council, and we were getting a new pastor. And he was coming from Immaculate Conception. So I went over Immaculate Conception. They were having a Marian procession, or a procession to the Marian Grotto there. And it was led by their pastor, who at the time was Monsignor Maloney. And I introduced myself that I'll be the Grand Knight. So when you come here and you need something, lean on the Knights of Columbus, right? And I said, so how would you like us to address you? Because, you know, a lot of priests sometimes will say, oh, just call me, you know, Father Steve or Monsignor Maloney. And he said, yes, you know, I've always been partial to the name my mother gave me, Stephen. So you can call me that. And I said, no problem, Monsignor, I can do that forever. The term Monsignor is an honorific. We use it to him to honor. So sometimes I'll refer to him as Monsignor, but never Stephen, because I respect the man way too much for that. So having said that, I'll talk about myself here. I'm a convert to the faith. I got married here at St. Andrew in 1998, about a month and a half to 2 months after the gorgeous church opened. It was over back in the back of the school, and I was never in that. Many of you probably remember the old church. I don't. I wasn't Catholic at the time, and when I proposed my wife, she goes, good, but we're going to wait till the new church opens to get married. And I said, okay, I didn't care. I wasn't Catholic. So we got married, and it was her witness that brought me to the faith. And she set me up an appointment because I kept asking her about her faith. And she set me up an appointment with Monsignor Colby Grimes, the younger Grimes. And I sat down and was talking to him and just had a whole bunch of question after question after question. And finally, he looked at me and he looked at his watch and he says, Dan, I'm sorry, but I have to go hear confessions. So I need to leave. We need to break this meeting up. And I said, well, okay. He goes, well, you have a lot of questions about God. And I go, no, I have questions about the Catholic faith and about the church. And he says, like I said, you have questions about God, and we have a program for that. Now, first off, that was my aha moment when I realized God and the church were the same. And that was my moment when it all when it all made sense, when it all came together. And he introduced me to the RCIA program, which at that time was called RCIA. And he said, now you don't have to become Catholic, but this is where you get your questions answered. And as I went through the program, I fell more and more in love with the church and ended up converting in '99. And then somewhere along the line, you hear that little knock on the back of your head. For me, it was probably a 2x4 saying, you know, I got bigger things for you. And I was called to the diaconate. You'll learn about the orders later, the difference between a deacon and a priest and a bishop. That's one of our weekly teachings in the sacraments. But I was called to the diaconate and entered the diaconate and was ordained in 2020 and was assigned back here, luckily, to St. Andrew to serve St. Andrew and to work with Monsignor graciously. I am married. Deacons can be married as long as they're married before they get ordained. So my wife, many of you probably know her, Kathy Dowler. She works in the religious education department. She is the religious education department, but that's another story entirely. But that's where she is. I have one daughter. She's 25, lives in Boston, unfortunately. As much as I tried to keep her here in Columbus, she wanted to go to Boston and, you know, good dad would let her go anywhere she wants, so I let her go to Boston. Beyond that, I work outside. I have a job outside of the church. I do not work for the church. I work for the church. But I have a day job. I work as an electrical engineer for a consulting engineering company. So I do my day job and then come here at night and get to spend time with you guys. Emily asked me to come and talk to you because I come from a unique position because I've been where you guys are right now, thinking about becoming a Catholic. You've already heard the statements before, you should become a Catholic. Why don't you become a Catholic? You've heard God's calling. That's why you're here. God's calling you here. And you answered his call with question. As Monsignor mentioned, who is that? It's the Lamb of God. That's what John teaches. Throughout the year, you're going to learn various things like that. And you're going to learn all the stuff about being a Catholic. But the learning about God never stops. It is a continual process. But every time I go and read the Bible, I learn something new. Every time I go and hear a homily, I hear something new that reminds me of my faith. It is truly an unbelievable process that you continually grow deeper and deeper in love with Jesus, with the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. As you grow deeper, you will learn why you became Catholic. That's all I got to say about that. So, is there anything else I left out of that, Emily?
Why should we come to class? We're grown adults.
Why should you come to class? Well, we answered the easy answer to why you should come to class is because you want to learn how to be Catholic. But I always like to think of this differently. I actually teach this as I advise marriage couples. You know, it takes 9 months to form a baby, right? When you get pregnant, as Emily knows now, it takes 9 months, sometimes a little bit longer. I hate to say it, I was 3 weeks late, so sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Okay, but it takes 9 months to form a life. You're coming to class and you're being reformed to be reborn. You're going to be reborn as children of God in the Catholic Church. We don't do that overnight. We do that over a 9-month process, give or take a few weeks, just like a baby. Sometimes it's early, sometimes it's late. So that's why we need you to come here every week. When you're forming a child, you just don't do it 1 day a week. You do it continuously. Your life with God, you will continuously grow. We want you to grow. We want to be part of that to help you grow and be born with Jesus. Does that make sense? Any questions? So try to make it to every Wednesday night. Now, Emily luckily records these, which is good and bad. But she does record these. So if you do miss one, please watch the presentation, okay? One of the great things about her process, which she'll talk about, I hope, maybe first class, but one of the first things she does when she comes in after introductory prayer, because you start everything with prayer, right? After your introductory prayer, she asks, what questions do you have from last week? And that's a good time because, you know, when you're sitting here, we're going to be throwing so much information at you. You're not going to think about it until you get home. And you're going to get home and you're going to say, oh, what did they mean by that? Right? And then you're going to think about it. So write it down on a sheet of paper, put it in your notebooks that you bring next week. When she asks the questions, ask. A lot of times the people change from week to week to week. So you may hear something that I teach you, and you come back the next week and Monsignor's there. And Monsignor might be able to put a different spin on it so that you can understand it better, so that you have a better comprehension of what it is we're trying to teach you, how God can be more a part of your life. Good? Any other questions or comments? Matt's probably heard this already. I've been talking to Matt for about a year and a half, and that man is you. So,
Did you go to pre-K here?
yes, I did, as a matter of fact. I think you were. I thought you were. I thought I recognized you. We were July 18th. Strange how that works, isn't it? Anything else? Any other questions, comments, anything? Bueller? Bueller? Nothing? Well, I will turn it back over to Emily. And I look forward to seeing you throughout the year. Like I said, Emily asked me to come here and talk to you because of a unique perspective, because I'm a convert already, so I've been here where you guys are. I won't be with you every week. As I mentioned, I have a job, so I have to support my wife and my daughter, who is not still off the payroll, even though she had to go to college.
And a lot of times he's in Cincinnati, so he comes in after a long day of being in Cincinnati. Okay, I'm gonna
Not
talk.
quite Vegas. We gotta talk about.
Hey, coming straight from the airport, you get an A for today. Okay, so this is a little binder. I'm gonna walk you through the binder. This is gonna be the binder that we're gonna use. It's so interesting the way the materials came. They did not have hole punches. They were not organized, so we had to put them together and get them organized. And I created just enough binders for those that are actually what's called a catechumen. So a catechumen is those that will be baptized. And a candidate is the terminology for those that are converting from a different Christian religion. So this binder here has a lot of the information you're going to need either way. So at the very cover, I have who our team members are. So tonight, so far, you've met myself, Emily, Chris, Pellissier's in the back, Monsignor Maloney. You met Deacon Dan, and you still will meet Deacon Tom Bird, and also Father Tabby as well. So you're going to really be introduced to the clergy, those who you'll see at church, and they actually, you know, like Monsignor said, we'll be building relationships here. On the inside cover of the book is this really important piece of paper here. And that is a piece of paper that gives me information about you, such as, you know, what am I here for? Am I a person that, you know, is here as a sponsor? Am I a baptized Catholic? And I hope to have confirmation. If you don't have the paper, don't worry, I will print more papers. I thought I had enough, but maybe I don't. No problem. That important piece of paper, we will get more important pieces of paper. But your name, so we have a sense of it, what your current religious affiliation is. So they're, you know, Methodist, I'm Lutheran, I'm a Baptist, I'm evangelical, I'm Orthodox, for example. Lots of different denominations, but it does actually matter because we look at your baptism in that faith. When Father Ferguson was here, he told the story that, you know, he said, oh, one time we were looking at baptisms and a person said, yes, I'm baptized. And as Catholics, we actually take that very seriously. I've called probably half a dozen churches and I introduce myself all across the United States. And I say, please tell me about your baptism. Oh, okay. And I understand because we want to make sure you're baptized in the Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And we want to make sure that baptism, I actually have a list, a file downstairs of all the churches that are in union with our baptism. But Father Ferguson said, I called and the person said, yes, I was baptized in rose petals. It was like, you can't get baptized in rose petals, right? So that person was actually baptized at the Easter Vigil as well. Or someone found out, oh, actually, we had a person who was, you know, in her 60s, and she's like, yes, I was baptized here at this church, and we call the church, and there's no record, and she has no record. But she was actually dedicated as a child. She was never baptized. So these things matter as Catholics. You're going to find that everything has a reason for what we do. So filling out as much detail matters. We also, in our documents, one thing I love about the Catholic Church is we have amazing documents. So when we talk about our saints, we know what church they were baptized in. We know what year they were baptized in. We know, you know, what day they were baptized. We've always kept really good concrete records. So a lot of times for some of you, you will go back and call your church and they'll say, I don't know what day you're baptized. I don't know who the pastor was. Oh, let's look it up. Like, records for Catholics matter, and we'll work with you. And my job is I said last year, I'm like your flight attendant flying the friendly skies to heaven. So my job is to be your middle person that you're like, Emily, I don't know where my baptismal certificate is, or I don't know if this church did this, or, I'm here to help you. And if I need to get a priest or a deacon involved, I will, but know that I'm here to fly the friendly skies with you. But your maiden name, your priest name, your marriage status, and the marriage status is something that helps us understand if you, for example, are in your second marriage. We look at making sure that, you have the freedom and that we don't need to look into annulments and some of these other processes that are important that we know this at this point. So, if you're engaged, do you intend to get married? When do you plan to get married? Has your fiance been married before? These questions help us to understand your freedom and your ability to become Catholic. And then the next question is, do you have a sponsor? And that opens up a little bit to what is a sponsor? You might have heard, do you have a sponsor? Do you not have a sponsor? Who is a sponsor? And so the sponsor is a person that's already Catholic and actively participating in the church. So it's important that we find someone for you that is doing what you're joining, is an active Catholic. They're willing to attend class. A lot of times you might have a sponsor who is your favorite person in the whole world, maybe even your spouse that you love so much, but they can't come here. They can't hear the talks. They can't be present with you, because part of it is that conversation between you and that sponsor. Like, man, I don't understand. I don't understand what we were talking about with regards to the Old Testament, or did you hear it this way? Or do you think Father meant it that way? Because we want you to have an anchor in the parish. So it might be that your favorite person in the whole world is your spouse, but your sponsor is your spiritual person who's mentoring you and helping you in the faith. So it's not who's my favorite person, it's who's the right person to help me. Because really what they're willing to also do is be a role model in the faith. They're a person that walks with you, that's your role model. Supporting you in this spiritual journey and just is there to answer questions. We're never going to put a sponsor in the front of the class and ask you to teach the class. It's never ever going to happen. But we are going to ask that you just be a companion. Now, a couple of years ago, we had a situation where we had two people that were dating, for example. We've had this a couple of times, and they're there, and that sponsor is right there to them, which is good. That's good that that person's brought them to the church. But what happens if that relationship breaks up, right? We want you to stay actively involved. And I'm not going to say that's not the right person, but I want you to consider all the big picture as we pick sponsors, because I wouldn't want you to go through this whole process. The person who brought you here, who brought you in the church, you're no longer talking to. And that's a little bit tricky, right? So the sponsor is a person who's practicing the faith, who is walking with you, who's answering your questions, and you feel like you can have, that you can be honest with. Because maybe you don't always feel honest in the classroom, but that they can help you. So the terminology, I don't want to be ever intimidated by our terminology. I was talking to a Protestant one time, and I used some big Catholic words: Eucharist, tabernacle, catechumen. I use these big words, catechism. And this person said, if you keep doing that to me, I'm going to start talking German to you. And I was like, I have no idea what that means. But she may realize I was using some really big words that were unfamiliar to her. So we don't want to use terms without defining them so that you feel comfortable. And so we'll probably do this multiple times. The first thing is catechumen, right? Big word for the person who has not been baptized in the Catholic faith. So they will receive the sacrament of baptism, Eucharist, and confirmation. So a catechumen receives all three of those when they become Catholic. The next is a candidate, is an individual that's already baptized. I know they're baptized, even if they don't have the exact paper, we'll do some investigation to make sure it's legitimate baptism. And they're received what's called into the full communion of the Catholic Church. and they're gonna receive Holy Eucharist, and they're gonna receive confirmation. Now, the candidate will also, before they receive Holy Eucharist and confirmation, they will go to reconciliation. So they'll have confession. And you've probably heard of confession, but confession isn't, reconciliation is what prepares our heart for these sacraments. Now, some of you might just say, well, I was baptized Catholic, I was never confirmed. Well, we want to fill in those gaps so that you can feel like you're standing on 2 feet. You can get ready for confirmation. And we've had a number of individuals that have reverted back to the faith that said, like, wow, I needed this teaching, this overview, this class, and I have such a better understanding of the faith. So you're welcome here. You are a Catholic. And then after Easter, after you become a church, after you are welcomed into the church, we use the word neophyte, baby Catholic. So that's the person that, we're not going to ask you to go run our, whatever program we have, we're looking for volunteers. So you say, I'm a neophyte, I'm new in this. So our focus is to keep you going to mass, developing, entering into the community, and we will walk with you in that process as well. So each class will begin when we talk about prayers. I want your prayers to feel very comfortable for you. So tonight I introduced you, for example, to the angel prayer, but we're going to get really comfortable with the Our Father, for example, how Catholics pray that. The Hail Mary. I want you to know the Glory Be. I want you to be comfortable in these prayers that you hear, so that you don't feel intimidated by the way that we pray. We're going to give testimony. We'll have some special guests tonight. We told you a lot about ourselves. We're going to have other people that have been in this class before, as Deacon shared, that they're a little bit of their faith story, some adult faith formation, and then discussion. I love that we've already had some questions tonight. I think that the discussion is really important. If in the class, as long as it's not too big, it's nice when we all discuss openly versus like maybe a Bible study where you have little tiny pods. It's nice that we get to that point of discussion. I don't know. We have the handout is I gave you all the dates you need to know. Mostly Wednesday night will be our evening class. I am again going to record. I will touch base with you if you have a vacation or something. We can get together and talk about kind of where you're at when it comes to formation, or if you have any specific questions, we can grab a cup of coffee. You can grab a cup of coffee with your sponsor. If you don't have a sponsor, I have some people that would be interested in sponsoring. I have 2 individuals here tonight as well, and I want to find the right person. This isn't just again, this is Jesus, who do you want to be this person's sponsor? This is a prayerful process, meaning it's not just, it's finding the right people to help you. So I'm happy to help you in that process. But if you, again, have a spouse that can make it, great. A daughter, an awesome daughter, fantastic. On my handout for the class gives you an overview of everything we're going to talk about. So you can see there's a lot of topics from this overview, a tour of the church. The third class, we're going to go to the story of Israel, our thirst for God, the beginning stories, why the Old Testament, divine revelation, how we view that as Catholics, Jesus and the gospel. We're going to go through the New Testament, the creed, the holy days, explain the liturgical calendar to you. We'll take a break for Thanksgiving, and then we're going to talk about the Blessed Mother, the Trinity, and last things. So those are all the topics leading up to that Christmas break. And that will give you a foundation in faith. And then when we come back, we're going to start talking about the sacraments, and we're going to talk about the moral life. So how to make a moral decision. The moral life, the dignity of life, the 10 commandments, how to pray. We'll talk about, and we'll always talk about how to pray, but specifically, we're also going to talk about Lent. We're going to really understand Lent and why this is important. And the last page has at the very bottom, so you kind of are moving through on the page 2. And then page 3, I give you these certain dates. The rite of acceptance, you see 119, and that, the time of the mass might change a little bit, but that's when you say, okay, I think I have an overview, I have an understanding, I want to receive the rite of an acceptance. That's why it's called order, because all the rites fit under the order. And then we have a couple masses where we pray these scrutinies, which are strengthenings. Think of them as strengthenings, graces. We are praying, scrutinies also like, purifying you, helping you to become Catholic. So it's a very simple gift. You go up to these masses, you don't have to say anything, but I want you to have these dates ahead of time. Some of the things you might not be able to make it, you might be out of town, but what's most important is that Easter, which is on 4/19, is the Saturday before the Easter Vigil. And I say it's important because last year someone's like, I thought I became Catholic on Sunday. The vigil is when everyone in the entire world, that's when we welcome our new Catholics. So it's a worldwide experience. So this gives you a general overview of the schedule. I want to make it accessible. What I'm gonna need is this piece of paper, to be able to, I have just a simple file where I'll keep a copy of your baptismal certificate, for example. Some of you might know exactly where it is. Someone gave me the little clock from their baptism, 34 years ago. I was very impressed his mother kept that. I don't need the clock. A copy would be great. And if you don't have it, again, I'll work with you. The other thing is in your book, you have this guide to the mass. This gives you think of this as like a cheat sheet. It's 2 ways, welcome to our church and a guide to the mass. And this will give you your basic overview of the mass to feel comfortable. We will go through the mass, but I really want you attending mass. I really want you worshiping with us. And I think many of you have already, but that will give you an overview. And then I gave you this piece of paper. This is like the ultimate cheat sheet. And if you lose it, I give you more. You can put this in your back pocket. When you come to church, you know, this is what's in the pew, right? You probably see this is our missal. There's a lot here, and we'll teach you how to use it. But these are the responses and prayers that make it easier for you to participate. And we'll go over all of this, but I wanted you just to kind of see, you know, there's a lot going on here, and I think you all know that as you try to look at so this is something we'll cover. And the last thing is that I will be at some point giving you guys a copy of this is called the Catechism of the Catholic Church. So this is the Catholic Church actually has answers to your questions, and they're not just answers that I made up or we thought of here in Columbus, Ohio. This is the official catechism teaching of the Catholic Church. And in the back, there is probably 50 pages of topics. So if you are like, I really want to understand health, hatred, evil, faith, you can look it up by topic. So you can read the whole book, you can understand prayer, you can understand communion of saints, liturgy, discuss the moral life. Everything's here in this book as well. So this is something that we'll use. All of our papers are based in this, but this will be something that you can have, you can flip through it. You can, again, look up topics in the back, and I will have a copy for all of you as well. But this is so bring your book. You can write your name if you want, just right up here, or inside. So if you leave it, we'll know it. We'll use them for the for the participants. And Logan, I will get you a copy as well. And gosh, I know we've given you a lot of details and questions. Do you have any other questions related to the class, the topic? Yes.
I have a question. For example, the next time that we're gonna meet, like, what's gonna be our focus learn?
Okay.
And like, we're gonna do tests, so we can prove like ourselves that we learn and we can stop.
That's a really good question. We're not going to offer a test. In the fact that you're going to have, so we're gonna tour the church, for example, that's our next thing. So when I look at tour the church under 10.9, I have a green section and that would cover Q12 and Q11. So this gives you, we are following this in relationship to how we teach RCIA. This book did not match up. So I found the topics and we can pull them out, but it's, so this, the topics are divided. So this is green, for example, and this is blue. You could read the whole thing tonight, or you can, do it each one. But for example, next week covers places in the church. So that will give an overview of the names. It will have, okay, here's a picture of the church, everything you need to know. So if you go Q1, here, I'll show you Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, Q5, it's like Q6. Q7, there we go. So places in the church is Q11. And I mean, there were different ways to do this. I could have handed you a leaflet every week, but I felt like this way you have it, you don't have to have this exact thing in front of you, but you know the terms. So that will be like, this will be the supporting content. And then I want, in the back of the church, we'll see a picture. We'll talk a little bit about the structure of the church so you feel familiar. We'll meet in here every week because we're so close. Then we're going to walk over into the tour of the church with Monsignor. So let me show you here the green section. Yeah, I don't. No, we're skipping around. We're skipping around because it's going to fit into the way that we're doing. Like, we think it's important that you tour the church on the second week. If you can see that they don't have touring the church until Q11 farther, but we think here at St. Andrews, we like when you tour the church on the second class. So it's going to feel a little bit skipping around. But trust me, I'll help you at the beginning of the class figure out which flyer we need, if that makes sense. And it wasn't, Kelly, was it pretty easy last year?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
It's well.
Okay. So the book will just reinforce what we're learning, if that makes sense. And the sponsors, I don't have materials for all the sponsors. Maybe I will in the future. The goal is that the sponsor, is there to look at the content with you. But I'm not gonna make this, if the sponsors are like, could you Xerox me a copy? Yes, I could do that. I could have Xerox copies, going into the class as well. So that's something I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe I'll do that for sponsors. We can see how it goes. I think most of the information you're gonna feel like this is information I already know because I've gone to church and practiced my faith. If that makes sense, the way it is. But maybe not. We will see how that goes.
I think as a sponsor, it was just more about the discussion.
Yeah.
We had great conversations after class, just and what processing all the things that we're talking about.
And that's really the role of the sponsor, is just to be an ear, to listen, to, I'll get text, okay, I need a little bit more information on this, so I can help direct you on that. But it's not going to be like a class like where you might obviously take notes, but you're not going to be tested on notes.
I think that's on.
Oh, did you go to St. Charles there?
Took me 7 years to get confirmed.
That's a good consideration. We'll put that in the comment box. Yes, Chris.
So, then I'll hospital is, um, I have been around, you know,
I stay, I get the kids home, like I'm available, for that 30 minutes before class. So if you come early and you're like, I have some struggling with this, we can talk that out as well. Or stay after a little bit. Yes, Keegan.
I was gonna say, you never, ever have. Seen?
And so that means come to mass on Sunday, and Saturday night fulfills your obligation as well. So there's a 4:30 evening mass on Saturday night. You can go to mass, you can go to dinner. It's a great way to do things. You can go in the morning. I love the 7:30 a.m. mass. I have this big, awesome, long Sunday. There's a 9:15 mass, there's 11 o'clock mass. So there's a lot of ways, and the Catholic Church is universal. So if you are, sometimes we have to end up at a different mass because of the kids' sports schedule. That's also the same mass, the same readings. It's just in a different location. So I want you to kind of think about that, and we'll talk a lot about that as the year goes on. So we've covered a lot. You guys have done a great job listening. I thought it'd be nice if we introduce ourselves, because you will be spending a lot of time together. How about just tell us about your name, maybe one or two details that would be helpful for us to remember. And we'll continue to do this until I feel like, until you're like, yeah, I'm beginning to catch everyone's name. I'm starting to be able to do that. And I'm gonna put Kelly on the spot because she donated the coffee maker. So Kelly, we were in a different location. This is a new room, and I like it. So yeah. So Kelly, tell us a little bit about how you ended up here and who you are.
So my mom is taking the class now, which is super exciting. I grew up with my dad and my mom married, but going to different churches because she did not convert from being a Lutheran at the time, and my dad is Catholic, so he made sure that we all had all of our sacraments Catholic, and I started Catholic school. I did public school some too, but I then later in life married someone that grew up Presbyterian, so we kind of spent time being married and exploring which faith was right for us, and eventually really decided as a family it was best for the kids to be in Catholic school and do Catholic mass, and we later had them baptized, and then last year he decided to convert, which they were thrilled with, and it was really a lot of fun and exciting to have them in that process too. So just had a really special time with our family and just making those commitments and decisions, and feeling good that we spent this time and process of really deciding this is what was best for us. And love it, and we love it. We're very, happy with those choices. But what I thought was super cool was that he went through this process of the classes and would talk to my mom about how great they were and about how much he was enjoying it, how much he was learning. And all of a sudden we started having conversations that in my whole life we never So it was really interesting, just like, we kept pushing, so, well, yeah, you come. You consider this too, and I think it's awesome that she's wanting to explore it and convert and so yeah, that's a long, sorry, too much, but, that's where we are. So, do you want her to go next?
Yeah.
My husband's job and raised some children in a nice small town to raise children. And I tried to get him, we lived there for 40 years. I tried to get him to move to Clovis where our kids were, so we could get closer, but he never really wanted to do that. But just 2 years ago, I got him to do it. So we've been here just 2 years in Columbus, but I was going back and forth a lot in between. No, I lost my husband last summer, so he didn't get to enjoy being close to the grandkids. He loves the grandkids to come over, but they're so close. If they come over, and I have to tell you, today is my first day.
Wanted to make this.
AJ, you're representing well.
I am a sponsor here, my name is AJ. I'm sponsoring my wife Tricia, who's in Myrtle Beach with her 2-year-old daughter and her boyfriend. So I'm truly quality. I actually grew up with them. I went to St. Andrews for 8 years. I was confirmed here, baptized here, first communion here, all of them, and then I went to Arlington High School. That was fun. I went to school in Boston, and now I own a company with my 3 brothers and my father here in Columbus in real estate. I don't want to speak too much about Tricia, but she was baptized Lutheran. We had our daughter 2 years ago. She was just baptized and it's been
Well, thank you. That's great. Of course, so you want to go next? We just met.
Yes, very, considering, doing the sponsor. We moved to Columbus from Philadelphia, and before that it was in Seattle. I grew up in Italy. In Italy. Well, let's see if I can do something more. Two of them for these, those. We have three boys, here, three sons that are singing.
That program is called That Man Is You, which is better than me. Melissa, me,
I was born and raised in Janesville, Florida, so grew up Catholic. My dad was my mom was the one who spearheaded, teaching us and growing us. Moved to Columbus in 2006, married him. Hey, that's not the original goal, was to get back south, but Columbus is a great place to live. He's seven. How many about like Kathy? I chance for us to feel a smile when we see each other and be able to know a little bit of a window. Now I'm not still my neighbor. Not technically, you live behind me.
I'm sure I'm walk by your house.
Just all over right way down front.
It's all-
Yeah, and we have a little car lot for me.
My name's Phil. I've lived in Columbus almost all my life. I was actually born up in Northeast. Ohio. My grandparents. Here today. My first, my first, I'm born in two kids. School here. But yeah. Oh, I knew I wanted my kids to have that growing up. I wanted them to have that solid foundation on Christ. So that's, and then sending my boys to teenager, I can't have her going to this church, learning more than me. So I want to join in with her. Thank you.
Mike and I met on Sunday.
Western high school and, you know, growing up in Cincinnati, it's not quite the same as Columbus in that, when you ask somebody where you live, at least from my perspective, was, oh, I'm in St. Antonis Parish or Victory Parish or whatever, you immediately know where you are. Not so much in Columbus. Experience anything, other than the Catholic style, although my dad was Lutheran, my mom was Catholic. My, so I didn't really hang around with more Catholic. Bonding experience.
Well, I think we've all had a chance to kind of introduce ourselves. And those will continue the journey. It's perfect timing because it's right at 8:30. And Monsignor, do you have any closing comments? We good?
Oh.
That would be wonderful. That's the perfect closer right there. Logan, if he wants to say something. Logan, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys all hear me?
Everyone, meet Logan. Do you want to say anything about yourself? You've been very patient.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Logan and I'm a construction worker. So my working hours are a bit crazy. That being said, I've kind of been on this journey for about 3 years now, and I wanted to attend OCIA to find answers. Something in my mind was just telling me and pushing me to dig deeper. Uh, but yeah, that's basically my story. Not the most interesting and not as cool as some of your guys' stories, but I appreciate the opportunity to share and hopefully get to meet all of you guys in person.
Well, thanks for joining us. You are our most patient participant tonight.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Everyone, have a great rest of your night. I will definitely always work on getting you right out at 8:30. I'm gonna stop recording and